Hello students. In the previous class, we discussed about the human excretory system as well as the process of urine formation. Now in today's class, let's discuss about the regulation of kidney function as well as certain disorders which are related with the human excretory system. So first, let us discuss about the regulation of kidney function. So let's first recollect the process of urine formation. Process of urine formation involves three major steps, which are they? Glomerular filtration, also known as ultrafiltration, then tubular reabsorption and tubular secretion. And in glomerular filtration, we have seen that when the blood flows through the glomerulus, all the constituents of the plasma except the proteins gets filtered into the lumen of the Bowman's capsule. And what gets collected in the lumen of the Bowman's capsule is known as the glomerular filtrate. Now, the amount of this glomerular filtrate formed by the kidneys per minute, that is called as glomerular filtration rate or GFR. Very important. So what is GFR? It is the amount of filtrate formed by the kidneys per minute. And GFR in a healthy individual is approximately 125 milliliter per minute. That amounts to about 180 liters per day. That means in a day, about 180 liters of glomerular filtrate will be formed. But that will be, major part of that will be reabsorbed. Almost 178 liters will be reabsorbed and only 1.5 liters will be eliminated out in the form of urine. Right? Now, the regulation of the functioning of the kidneys or the functioning of kidneys is monitored by an inbuilt mechanism, and it involves a hormonal feedback mechanism involving the hypothalamus and juxtaglomerular apparatus. Abbreviation is JGA, juxtaglomerular apparatus. So the two major organs involved in the regulation of kidney function, one is the hypothalamus, which is situated in the brain, and the other one is the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Now, juxtaglomerular apparatus is a sensitive region formed by the cellular modifications in the distal convoluted tubule, that is DCT, and the efferent arteriole at the location of their contact. So JG cells are found within the kidneys, within the nephron itself. Then a fall in GFR. Now how does this mechanism works, feedback mechanism works? Let's see that. So first let's see how the hypothalamus works. The hypothalamus secretes whenever there is a change in the volume of the blood or the volume of body fluids or ion concentration, the hypothalamus gets stimulated and it starts secreting a hormone by name vasopressin, also known as anti-diuretic hormone, which is written as ADH. The full form of ADH is anti-diuretic hormone. So whenever there is a change in the blood volume or the volume of the body fluids, or whenever there is a change in the ion concentration, immediately the hypothalamus gets stimulated and it starts secreting a hormone by name vasopressin, also known as anti-diuretic hormone. Now what is the function of anti-diuretic hormone? Its function is to facilitate water absorption. It helps it increases the amount of water which can be reabsorbed by the tubular part of nephron. Okay, so that is how the vasopressin or the anti-diuretic hormone acts. Now let's see how this JG cells or the juxtaglomerular apparatus acts. So that mechanism by the JG cells, that is called as renin angiotensin mechanism. Now, the JGA plays a complex regulatory role. Whenever there is a fall in the glomerular blood flow or glomerular blood pressure, or we can say GFR, whenever GFR falls, that is glomerular filtration rate decreases. When it decreases, what happens is immediately the JG cells start secreting renin, which is an enzyme. Renin is an enzyme. Okay, so it releases an enzyme by name renin, which converts a protein, that is angiotensinogen. So angiotensinogen is found in the blood. So whenever there is a fall in GFR, the JG cells secrete renin. This renin converts angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1 first and then into angiotensin 2. Hope it's clear. So first what happens? Whenever the GFR falls, the JG cells release renin. Renin is an enzyme. And what is the action of renin? It converts the protein angiotensinogen found in the blood. It is produced by the liver cells and it is found in the blood. And angiotensinogen will be converted into angiotensin 1 and then into angiotensin 2. Now, angiotensin 2 is a powerful vasoconstrictor. Now, what's the meaning of vasoconstrictor? Vaso stands for blood vessels. Constrictor means it constricts or it applies a force on the blood vessels so that the blood vessels become narrow. When the blood vessels become narrow, more pressure will be exerted within the blood vessels and thereby the effective filtration rate will be higher. So, or the glomerular filtration rate will be higher. Blood pressure increases and hence the GFR also increases. So, the function of angiotensin 2 is it acts as a powerful vasoconstrictor and thereby increases the glomerular blood pressure and thereby glomerular filtration rate also increases. Another important function of angiotensin 2 is it activates the cortex of the adrenal gland. I hope you have studied about adrenal gland. It's a gland associated with the kidneys. And this adrenal gland has two regions. One is the cortex and the other one is a medulla. Adrenal cortex secrete a hormone by name aldosterone. Adrenal cortex secrete a hormone by name aldosterone. So angiotensin 2, it activates the adrenal cortex to release this hormone aldosterone. And the function of aldosterone is it helps in the reabsorption of sodium ions as well as water from the distal parts of the nephron. This also leads to an increase in the blood pressure and thereby the GFR, glomerular filtration rate. This complex mechanism is generally known as renin-angiotensin mechanism. Very important from examination point of view. You may get this for a 3-mark question. Explain renin-angiotensin mechanism. So this is what you have to write. Now this is summarized in the next slide. So whenever GFR falls, what happens? The JG cells secrete renin. This renin converts angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1 first and then angiotensin 1 will be converted to angiotensin 2 and angiotensin 2 is a vasoconstrictor, not angiotensin 1. Here it has come below that angiotensin 1 as vasoconstrictor, but actually the vasoconstrictor is angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is the vasoconstrictor. Now, this angiotensin 2, what it does, it increases the glomerular blood pressure and thereby glomerular filtration rate also increases. Now, second function of angiotensin 2 is it activates the adrenal cortex to secrete aldosterone. And what is the function of aldosterone? It helps in the reabsorption of sodium ions and water from the distal parts of the nephron. Thereby, the blood pressure, glomerular blood pressure increases and the GFR also increases. Hope it's clear, right? So this is a summary of that renin-angiotensin mechanism. Now, so this is a situation where what happens when the GFR falls. Suppose if the GFR increases, or if there is an increased blood flow to the heart, what will happen? Immediately the atria of the heart, atria means the auricles of the heart, secrete a factor by name atrial natriuretic factor, ANF, very important. So ANF is a factor which is released by the atria of the heart when there is an increase in GFR, whenever GFR increases. This ANF, it acts as a vasodilator. So angiotensin 2 acts as a vasoconstrictor, and ANF acts as a vasodilator, opposite of that. That is, the lumen becomes more, or the blood vessels become dilated. The lumen of the blood vessels increases in size. As a result of that, there will be more blood flow, and the blood pressure decreases. When the blood vessels dilate, the blood pressure decreases. And when the blood pressure decreases, what happens? Glomerular filtration rate also decreases. So this ANF mechanism acts as a check on renin-angiotensin mechanism. Why? Because both act opposite to each other. So ANF mechanism works when GFR is more, and renin-angiotensin mechanism works when GFR is less. Hope it's clear. So that is how the kidney functions are regulated. Now the next topic is micturition. Micturition is nothing but the process of expulsion of urine from the urinary bladder through the urethra. That is called as micturition. And the neural mechanism that causes micturition is called as micturition reflex. So it is the central nervous system acts or sends a signal when the bladder is full. It sends a signal, and this mechanism, that reflex, is called as micturition reflex. Urine formed in the nephron is stored in the urinary bladder till a voluntary signal is given by CNS. CNS means central nervous system. This initiates, so when that signal reaches the urinary bladder, the smooth muscles of the urinary bladder contracts, and simultaneous relaxation of the urethral sphincter. Sphincter is nothing but the valve which is found, which allows the flow of urine from the urinary bladder. So there is a valve at the urethra, and that is called as a urethral sphincter. And when the reflex reaches when the reflex is sent by the CNS, the smooth muscles contract, and hence the urethral sphincter relaxes, thereby releasing the urine. So this is how the process of expulsion of urine takes place. Now, there are, in addition to kidneys, certain other organs also help in the process of excretion, means help in the process of eliminating nitrogenous waste materials. First one, lungs. Lungs remove carbon dioxide, which is a metabolic waste. Okay, it's not a nitrogenous waste, but it's a metabolic waste. So lungs remove carbon dioxide and little bit of water. Liver eliminates bile-containing substances like bilirubin and biliverdin. You have to remember these two names, bilirubin and biliverdin. These two are bile-containing substances, or the bile pigments. Okay, so liver eliminates these two. Then the sweat glands remove NaCl, small amounts of urea and lactic acid. Okay, then the fourth one, sebaceous glands, they are also known as oil glands. They excrete sterol, hydrocarbons and waxes in the form of sebum. Okay, so these are the other organs which help in the process of excretion. So this also you may get for a 2-mark question. Explain the role of other organs in excretion. Okay, now we'll move on to the disorders of the excretory system. So the first disorder that you have to study is uremia. Uremia is nothing but malfunctioning of the kidneys leads to accumulation of urea in the blood, and this condition is known as uremia. So what is uremia? It is accumulation of urea in the blood due to malfunctioning of kidneys, and this may lead to kidney failures. So in such patients, the urea or the nitrogenous waste can be removed by the process of hemodialysis, dialysis of blood. Okay, we'll study about dialysis in the next slide. Okay, so now the disease is uremia. It is nothing but the accumulation of urea due to malfunctioning of kidneys. Then if there is acute renal failure, means if the kidneys fail to act or kidneys fail to perform its function, the only method there is no particular treatment, and only method is kidney transplantation. Now, the other disorders which you have to study is renal calculi or kidney stones. Renal calculi or kidney stones. Singular is calculus. So you may find in the question paper what is calculus, right? Calculus is nothing but kidney stones, renal calculus or renal calculi. These are the stones or insoluble mass of crystallized salts, that is calcium salts, the calcium carbonate or calcium oxalate gets crystallized and gets accumulated in some parts of the kidney in the form of stones, and these are formed within the kidney, and these are called as renal calculi. Then coming to the next disorder, that is glomerulonephritis. It is nothing but the inflammation of the glomeruli. If the glomeruli the glomerulus gets inflamed, it will affect filtration. So that disorder is called as glomerulonephritis, inflammation of glomeruli. Then now let's see what is hemodialysis. Hemo stands for blood. Dialysis. Now hemodialysis, here you can see a picture where a patient is lying down, and next to that there is a machine, right, which is called as, this machine is the dialysing unit. This machine is a dialysing unit. Now this unit consists of what is done during hemodialysis is the renal artery, an artery of the patient is cut, and it is from there the blood is allowed to pass through the dialysing unit. This is a dialysing unit. So an artery will be cut and the blood will be allowed to pass through this dialysing unit. Okay, so now when the blood is pumped into the dialysing unit, so before allowing the blood to come out, an injection is given to the patient, that is heparin injection, which is an anticoagulant. Otherwise what happens is, the moment the blood comes out of the body, the blood has a tendency to clot. So that should not happen. So in order to prevent that clotting, in the beginning an heparin injection will be given, which is an anticoagulant, means which prevents clotting of blood. So first the injection of heparin will be given, and then from an artery, a convenient artery, the blood will be allowed to pass through the dialysing unit. Now the unit contains cellophane membrane. So here in the picture you can see this pink colored, this region, that is a pink colored region. This region is the cellophane membrane, right? So the blood will be, the cellophane membrane, the blood will be allowed to pass through the coiled tube surrounded by the dialysing fluid. So cellophane membrane, the blood is flowing only through the cellophane membrane. Around the cellophane membrane is the dialysing fluid. So dialysing unit consists of a cellophane membrane tube made up of cellophane membrane. Around that the dialysing fluid will be there. Now the composition of the dialysing fluid will be exactly same as that of the plasma of the blood, except that the dialysing fluid will not be having nitrogenous waste materials. Okay, whereas the blood contains nitrogenous waste materials. So blood is flowing through the tube, which tube made up of cellophane membrane, and when the blood is flowing through that, from the blood moving through the cellophane membrane, the nitrogenous waste materials comes into the dialysing fluid. Why? Because in the dialysing fluid, the concentration of nitrogenous waste materials will be nil. Right? Rest all the substances found in the blood plasma will be present in the dialysing fluid. So the composition of dialysing fluid will be exactly similar to that of the plasma of the blood, except that it does not contain nitrogenous waste materials. Then what happens is the blood, while flowing through the cellophane membrane, the cellophane membrane allows the passage of molecules based on the concentration gradient. As the nitrogenous waste materials are absent in the dialysing fluid, these substances freely move out, thereby clearing the blood. After that, the blood, after passing through the cellophane membrane, it will be allowed to go back into the body of the patient. The cleared blood is then pumped back through a vein after giving an injection, right? So earlier it was heparin injection, now again an anti-heparin injection will be given, so that inside the body there will be no coagulation, and again the process of clotting will not be stopped when there is a natural wound. Okay, so this is how hemodialysis is done. Hope you all understood. So that is all about the regulation of kidney function and the disorders of the disorders associated with human excretory system. So with this, we have completed that chapter 19, that is excretory products and their elimination. Hope you all understood this chapter. Okay, thank you.